Welcome to this session of questions and answers about finding a job in Finland. I'll be brutally honest with you, and I haven't done anything like this before, so bear with me. But there's 50 questions and limited time to answer them, so let's hit it off. Okay, what to expect in hiring processes? Anything from perfect process to not hearing anything after submitting an application. Hopefully the first, but sometimes the latter. How to contact right recruitment personnel for job opportunities. Simple. Hiring managers make the decisions. The recruiters are there only to assist at the end of the day. If the company does recruitment differently, then the recruiter. Most crucial documents and common mistakes candidates make while applying for jobs in companies. Not having a concise and a clear written CV with an adequate design, and not realizing networking pays a lot of influence in jobs really. Right way to prepare for job interviews and expectations of recruiters. In Finland, be yourself, be frank, have a look on the company website, and know the vision and all that type of stuff, but don't overdo it. Just be yourself, be frank. Realize the frankness of Finns is a common feature. How to ask about the salary and work hours the position offer? By asking, simple as that. Don't go around it, but just ask. Be frank. How to find a part-time job while studying? By being active and looking for a job. Whether that's job boards, if it's a more technical or a specified job, or if it's a general job, for a smaller company, the recruitment market can be quite local, so you need to be active. When and how do we approach companies? If you want to find a job for next summer, it's good to start now in November, December, and networking, being in contact with the recruiters, the hiring managers, to be if not yet, and attending different sessions. Networking again, very important. How foreigners are treated differently in Finland in the employment process. I would say, as a rule of thumb, not really. But if you lack the networks and if you lack the language, that's a double challenge already. I had an interview at a company. When and how should I contact them for results? Next week. I think that's a good rule of thumb. If you don't get any kind of like a proper answer from them at that time, 2 weeks later, if nothing at that point, then just move on. They don't deserve you. How to get information about unpublished jobs? Networking is probably the best answer I can give to this. Knowing a person, who knows about a job that, the company would like to have people into, but, they might not publish it. Just knowing the people is important. The importance of Finnish language in international companies in Finland, that's a good one. And relatively little. I suppose it's more important at that point, for yourself to feel at home in Finland, to know Finnish language, than using it at the job, at an international company. What are necessary skills and criteria that most of the companies in Finland are looking for? Tough one. But I think the cultural frankness is something that's good to kind of like recognize. So Finns, like to speak things quite matter-of-factly, and I think it helps for you to do the same. And it's okay to admit that if you don't know something, because when Finns as in a general way, if they say they'll take care of something, then the expectation really is to take care of it, not to say yes, and not to fulfill in the long term. But yeah, the criteria really depends on the company and the industry, and again the skills as well. But good networking skills and dedication and to do the job well, and all the general stuff I think applies. What are the very first steps that a newcomer to Finland should take in the job hunt process? Networking again. I think that is really important. Find the kind of the networks online, LinkedIn and the rest, Facebook, different professional groups. There are many, other forums, and then also, face to face. There are many different networking events going on in different industries all the time. What are the key sections in resume and LinkedIn that employers focus in Finland? I think in the resume, speaking from a personal point of view, it's a work experience and the education. That's really it. To know whether if it's a no or a maybe or a yes. If the job description is in Finnish, does it mean that knowledge in Finnish is a mandatory requirement for that job? Yes, I would definitely take it that way. How do employers view the cover letter? What kind of information is critical for a cover letter? Well, you must realize that recruiters and hiring managers are all individuals. So people have their different ways of handling the process and reading the cover letters and all the rest of it. I tend not to look much on the cover letter. I focus on the resume first. When I have say 30 applications, and when I have 6 potentials, then I dig in the cover letter more in detail. It's all about motivation and how your skills are applicable and relevant and important for the job. And what else can you do than the basic job? I think that's really it. Without knowing Finnish language, how an international can get a job in the Finnish job market? I would say that locate your sweet spots. So identify the companies that hire in English in your own say niche job market. Whether that's a technology orientated or something else. But identify the companies that could consider you. And there's more and more. But it's also good to learn the language, definitely. How possible is it for an international fresh graduate to get a good job in Finland related to the field of study, except for IT field? That is a tough one. I think Helsinki region is coming more and more diverse and international each day in and out, but it is still a challenge. And I think networking really is crucial here. Find the personal contacts and I think you're definitely better off. How to build up proper networking to get into the very first job? Again, attend live activities, find all about Nuorkauppakamari and that type of stuff. You need to do a bit of research on this one, to identify the network events that you really should attend to, breakfast seminars and all that type of stuff. And again, LinkedIn as well is important, and other social media. You need to be very, very active on that. How internationals just get bound into academia and not get the opportunity to get into company jobs? I suppose you already established networks when you do your studies, at the uni, and they are more open to use English. So there's the language, and then there's the question of networks, and you need to apply this same mentality to outside of uni. So you need to be active and relentless in networking. That's really it, I think. How to utilize LinkedIn profile to get the very first company-based job? Well, you need to be active. It's not really about utilizing the LinkedIn profile, but really being super active and identifying people in different industries that might be of relevance to you, and then contacting them and connecting with them, and being sort of public on LinkedIn, making relevant highlights and all the rest of it. You need to be super active. Although internationals are highly motivated to live in Finland and contribute to the Finnish society, why still their potentials are not properly valued? That is a good one. The big picture is somewhat polarized in the Helsinki region. There's more and more jobs, in English, but also the kind of like the traditional industries still value the Finnish language a lot. And I think, there's the construction, there's restaurants, there's software development. There's a growing number of jobs where English language can be used at work. So pay attention to this, and also, the first jobs can be difficult also for Finnish speakers, because the graduate job industry, as it exists, for example, in the UK, doesn't exist in Finland in the same way. So people are sort of competing against seniors at some times, and that can make it double difficult. I would like to request from Finnish companies to give a chance at least 3 or 4 months as an intern to find out ability, strength and motivation of someone like me. Then they can decide correctly about its, how to continue. I sure agree. Can't say much more about that. I face difficulties to get a job here, especially in power engineering sector. I suppose power engineering sector can be one of the more traditional ones, using more Finnish. I suppose it can also relate to, in certain jobs, somewhat security related, there can be a certain time span that comes from the Finnish police, that you need to have some years in Finland before a security clearance can be done, as a general rule of thumb, and I suppose that can be making it a bit more challenging as well. Need to be super active, and networking can be challenging, but I would still try it, definitely. Fingers crossed, definitely. How to do appropriate searching for the required positions? So you mean the positions you're looking for? Use job search on job boards, LinkedIn, all the different medium, the media. Check different more modern sites like Glassdoor and that type of stuff. Where people are advertising more in English, and they're not huge amount of companies, but still there are more and more. But again, I wouldn't forget networking at this point either. Do you think the foreign students who come to Finland and graduate from Finnish universities should be given some priority to get professional jobs in Finland? Well, I think it's a tough one, because the companies still, and organizations pay the salary, so it would be hard to argue for that. I understand why the question, though. And if they struggle to get a job even with a Finnish degree, why they should come to Finland and pay huge tuition fees? Is a good question. I think the degrees provide good value. But it is a relevant question, to consider. More and more, the Finnish job market let's use the word integrate the graduates, international graduates, and I really look forward to supporting you guys as well in this process to find the job. In the job openings, I usually see one or another tool or language fluency requirement that I don't fit. And even though I know I could learn it in no time just by actually using it, I'm stuck with the feeling that my application will be considered offensive or inaccurate if I still apply for a position where my knowledge doesn't meet one of the requirements. Just apply. Yeah, I think there is always this endless list of criteria that the company is expecting the recruit to fulfill, but at the same time, it really is all about also the individual. So you know, apply, make a good point. Of you know how what you bring into the company, the skills and the personality and the mindset, and also you know it's you know if you don't apply you will not be chosen. At the end of the day, that's my point over here. Do I need to know Finnish for my field? Well, it's a very generic question. Depends on the field, I suppose. But as a general rule of thumb, even though it's challenging, you know, whilst you know studying or working, but do take the time to learn Finnish, because you know it just will make you feel as more part of the society. Even though if you find a job without the need for the Finnish skills. I wonder about the possibilities to get a job while being a student. I think you know part-time jobs definitely exist, especially in the university cities. But you know you need to be active to find them. You know, it really boils down to that activity, networking, and all that type of stuff. What is the best way to highlight skills for recent graduates? I would look at it from the networking point of view and start to create a bit of a personal brand on LinkedIn and all that type of stuff, and attending different sessions, and then also applying for jobs. But I would do them both, and you know networking with the mindset that okay, you're looking into a possible job in a few months' time, and then applying for a job as you know to find a job straight away. Fluent Finnish speaker when work language and companies are all other dealings are in English. If someone is looking for fluent Finnish speakers, then why do they advertise it in English? Good one. It really depends. I think customer work. If you're working with the customer and the customers use mainly Finnish, then that can affect. You know, the company wants at the end of the day make money, and you know for that they need customers, and if the customers like to deal in Finnish, you know even though the international company language would be English, then it just makes obvious sense. If someone is looking for a fluent Finnish speaker, then why do they advertise it in English? I suppose then that is all about the other way around. There's perhaps a message to the Finns that if you're not fluent in English, you know, there's no reason to apply. But I know it might feel a bit annoying at times. Do I need to know Finnish for my field? Again, it really depends. No, repetition. I answered that question, but it really depends on the field, I suppose. But I encourage you to learn the language. I wonder about the possibilities to get a job while being a student. That's a repetition as well. Perfect. Next one. How should you approach the company when applying for the job? I would be in contact with the hiring manager. You know, there's the contact details, and I would be, you know, communicating them about relevant issues, kind of like asking about the work setting or the are their objectives for the next year or something like that. Something relevant and just to kind of like stand out from the many applicants. How can foreigners best brand themselves in order to attract a Finnish recruiter? Networking online and offline, so face-to-face, again, different events, different breakfast sessions, meetups, conferences, whatever, and online as well, and making sure that being active and a bit relentless, so to speak, communicating with a lot of people, and just you need to bear in mind that the Finns, if you're 25 and looking for a job in Finland, you moved here half a year before, you don't have many networks yet, and if you want to find a job in half a year's time, during that half a year, you might need to kind of like accumulate a network that is comparative to the Finns that have accumulated it within 25 years, and really, at the end of the day, having said that, it only takes one company to believe in you and choosing you, but you don't know which one. And I would do a broad groundwork and keep on doing that. And after having found the job, because then you can do a bit of a brand out of yourself and make sure that you can be selecting the next job for yourself as well. How to interview better and request appropriate salary. Well, in the interviews, being frank is important, highlighting what you can do and what you cannot. That is something that Finns really appreciate. Appropriate salary. If they ask for requests from job applicants, then you might want to do a bit of groundwork to kind of like, using your expansive networks to kind of like ask from people who are working in similar positions that, okay, what type of a job pay would you ask for that, and I think that's the best way. What types of extra course do I need to develop my career in product development? It depends then on the product, I suppose. But, if it's technology orientated, all sorts of certifications in the technology definitely are useful. But it definitely depends on the product. Make it relevant to the product is important. Unfortunately, I met signs of racism in recruitment processes. I do speak Finnish, and once I wasn't even invited for an interview for the position where I fit in 100%. So I decided to call, and I got an answer. And the answer was, you don't speak Swedish. That is actually, especially when looking into the jobs, for example, for the government, it is double tricky, because they require fluent Finnish, but also satisfactory Swedish, and that's really demonstrated through paperwork from, say, a uni. I got that. I wouldn't be able to work in Swedish, but there is this legislation. I think it's a bit of a relic, but still, that requires all folks working for the government to be able to somewhat know Swedish. So it is something that doesn't really support folk from diverse background to work for the government. But also then looking at it the other way around, the recruiter, at the end of the day, if there's, say, 20 applicants and Finnish is mandatory, but also Swedish would be helpful. If they get applications from people who master their languages, then can't blame them to maximizing the benefit to the company, because that's really what it's all about. The question, why job offers where candidates have to know Finnish language at the native level, it means for Finns only, are published in English. I think it's then about communicating to the Finns that you must be able not only to speak Finnish but also English. sometimes the companies can be just a bit silly and kind of like, perhaps brand themselves a little bit by publishing jobs in English, but I don't know if this is a broad phenomenon. I think it's more about communicating to then the Finns who are able to speak Finnish that English is very relevant. When is it the time to apply for summer jobs? It really depends on when the summer jobs are about. I think the earliest ones start in November, and then some late coming firms, they advertise in, say, April, even May. So, you need to kind of like pay attention. How fresh grads find their first jobs usually? I think that the best way is to carry on from an internship. I think that's the easiest way. Other than that, then all the different students, your colleagues at the uni, they can be potential connectors, connectors to the new job, and I think a lot of jobs go via that type of networking as well. If the job description is in Finnish, should I apply? If you lack the language, then I wouldn't. I just would save the time. I sent my application in June, no reply after 2 months. What's wrong? I think at that point there are people working for the company and not having made sure that everyone gets a reply. I would just ask, and ask again. Right, about 45 questions, something like that, answered. Very, very brief. Apologies for the conciseness of it all. I think each one of these questions could be answered, in more detail. But at the end of the day, I think answering these questions in a brief and frank manner can be helpful as well. Do connect with me on LinkedIn, Sako Tihveräinen, and would be pleased to connect with you. And really, what I want to say to you to finish off is that as a junior professional, the first relevant jobs are difficult to establish here in Finland. I think that's the case both for Finns and for internationals. And really, it's all about having less graduate programs here in Finland in comparison to many other countries. You don't find a graduate program of a year or two typically here, and that can make it a bit more challenging, definitely. And what I really say is that Finland needs you. We need more people with more diverse backgrounds into the company. It's all related to selfish reasons as well. There's going to be less and less Finns, so it's obvious, and the change is taking place at this time. Really, then, if you come across with some really bad behavior or obvious cases of say prejudice, keep in mind that you can find help from an ombudsman. So there's going to be the URL on the bottom of the screen, and in case you come across with serious cases of prejudice, you can always let that institute know and make a difference. Excellent. Thanks for this. Best of luck.